What's up guys, Andrew Bainey here, and on today's video we're going to be taking a look at the brand new plugin from Neural DSP. This time around it's Archetype GOJIRA. That's right, the band famous for making an album about flying whales. So as always with all my videos, I'm going to take you guys through a full demo mix. This was all recorded in Drop A using a 7-string guitar, and this demo has a rhythm guitar, a lead guitar, a clean guitar, as well as a filter lead. So we're going to take a look at the full demo mix, and then we're going to come back, talk about all the features and specs of the plugin, as well as a few other sound samples. So stay tuned if you want to hear more of that. But first, here's how the plugin sounds in a full demo mix. Alright, now that I've shown you guys how this plugin sounds in a full demo mix, we are of course going to go over the features of this plugin, and then I'm going to show you the individual sounds that I was using during that demo. So first and foremost, we are going to take a look at the rhythm guitar section, since that is probably the most prominent section of the mix. So when you open up this plugin, you're going to see a window that looks something like this. So we'll just go through the different sections really quick. So if you go on the top here, this is kind of like your signal path. So starting off at the very beginning, we have a whammy pedal, which is super cool. There's not really that many good whammy VST plugins, so it's really cool that Neural DSP finally threw their hand in, because they make everything sound good, and this is no exception. So they have a whammy pedal and an octave pedal in this first section. I was using the whammy pedal in my demo, but as you can see here, there's a couple of weird looking features we'll talk about. So on the whammy pedal, which I guess they call the wow pedal, there's obviously this big foot switch here, which as you can see, if you click and drag, you can move it around. And then there's 3 different modes, which are Fatso, Blade 1, and Blade 2. And then of course you have a dry, wet knob at the top to control how much of the whammy you want to be mixed into your sound. So in my tone, I was using the Fatso mode because it adds a low octave and a high octave at the same time. And then when you pitch shift it up, it goes up an octave, and I thought that sounded really good. Whereas if you use Blade 1 doesn't do the double octave thing. It only shifts up 1 octave, and then Blade 2 shifts up 2 octaves. So if you want to get really screechy, dissonant noises, Blade 2 is your best bet. And then beside that, we have the octave pedal. So octave 1 adds a lower octave, octave 2 adds a higher octave, and of course the level blends in the amount of octave you want mixed into your sound. In my instance, I was not using it in this particular tone. Next up, we'll move on to the second pedal section. So in this section, you see an OD pedal, a dirt pedal, a phaser pedal, and a chorus pedal. So the controls on these are all pretty standard, as you would expect for these types of pedals. So of course the overdrive and dirt have, distortion, level, tone, same for both. And then the phaser just has 1 knob, which is the rate. And then the chorus has rate, depth, feedback, and mix. Next up, moving on to the amp section, we can see that there are 3 different amps. Since this is the rhythm tone, I was obviously using the super high gain metal rhythm amp, which you can see here. However, there are two other amps. This is a mid gain one, and then this is the low gain / clean amp. And then we can see at the bottom here that there are also 3 different cabs, which are by default linked to their respective amp head. But if you uncheck that link button, you can mix and match the cabs and amps as you please. A couple of other things to note here, of course, is that there is a noise gate, an input level, a stereo or mono switch. So I have it in stereo because, of course, I double tracked left and right guitar, and it's nice having that stereo switch because you can only use one instance of the plugin that does both DIs, so you don't have to overload your computer too much. Of course, an output level and the tuner, very important feature to have. Next up, moving on, we have an EQ section. We don't really need to talk about this because it's pretty standard. It's an EQ. It's basically the same as every other Neural DSP plugin. It's got an on-off switch, and of course you can adjust these bands accordingly to their corresponding frequency range at the bottom. Next up, again, this is going to look really familiar if you've used any of Neural DSP's other plugins. This is the cabinet section where you can mix and match a bunch of different mic options, as well as adjust their position, distance, level, and whether you want to have 1 mic or 2 mics. And of course, you can also load your own custom IRs if you don't like any of the ones that are included. And then last but not least is the final pedal section. So this is at the very end of your signal chain. And for this, we have a delay pedal and a reverb pedal. Again, these look pretty similar to other pedals that were found in other Neural DSP plugins. I think these are very close to the ones that were used in the Cory Wong plugin. Okay, so with that all being said, let's take a listen to what the soloed rhythm tone sounds like. This is only using the plugin and no other post-processing, and it sounds like this. Okay, so that's pretty much what I was doing, but of course we're gonna mess around with a couple of the settings. So I'm gonna play that again, and we're gonna tweak the amp settings a little bit and see what a difference in sound that makes. So let's play that again. Okay, before we move on to the next guitar tone, there is one more thing that I wanted to mention. I'm sure a lot of you are wondering how you can actually use this whammy pedal in context with your mix. So the easiest way is probably to use a MIDI controller. So if you have a MIDI expression pedal, you can plug that into your interface and control it with that. I don't personally have that though, so what I did was I used something called automation. So you can kind of see it here. It's obviously going to look different in your DAW, but essentially this pink and blue or pink and purple lines here, this is basically where I turn on the whammy pedal. So you can see wow active. So this is where the wow pedal turns on, and then this is the wow position. So this is of course the position of the pedal. So if I play this again, you can see on here that it is triggering the wow pedal, and that sounds something like this. So as you can see, when these automations happen, it obviously turns on the pedal. I'm gonna play that one more time for you, but open up the actual plugin so you can see what it's doing here in real time. So as you can see, basically the MIDI events are triggering the pedal on and shifting that switch all the way up, so it's doing the full octave shift. Okay, next up we are going to move on to what I call the filter lead section. So that's that tapping section in the middle of the song. So for this one I was using the mid gain amp, and this is what that sounds like. So yeah, I was really happy with the sound. So obviously, in addition to being a mid-gain tone, it also has some other unique things going on. So if we move over to the first pedal section, of course I have an overdrive pedal active, but in addition to that, I also have the phaser going on because I thought that made it sound really wide and cool and helped differentiate it from the rhythm tone a little bit more. And then in addition to that, I of course have the reverb pedal on. So we'll play that one more time, and I'm going to turn off and on the phaser pedal and the reverb pedal so you can hear what a difference that makes, and we'll play with those dials as well. So as you can hear, adding that phaser pedal and the reverb pedal definitely made a big difference in this tone. One of my favorite features of the reverb pedal, which I'll show you guys in a different tone, is that shimmer function, because oh man, it sounds so beautiful, but it sounds better for clean tones. So with that being said, we're gonna switch over to that clean tone. So moving on to the clean tone, of course for this one, I was using the clean amp. However, I unlinked the cab, so I'm using actually the high gain cab, but the clean amp sim. I just thought that this sounded best personally. This one does have a little bit of gain, so it's got a tiny bit of distortion, tiny bit of breakup on it. In addition to that, I was also using the whammy pedal once again on that fatso mode, but this time I had the dial set way more close to dry, and the reason that I really liked how this sounded was that it was adding that upper and lower octave, which really helped it stand out, because there's a lot of other lower stuff happening at this point in the song, so having that extra high octave especially made it stand out. And then in addition to that, this time in the second pedal section, I was using the chorus pedal, which again helps give it a little bit of wideness, a little bit of variety. And then one more time, if we move over to the final pedal section, this time I was using the reverb function as well as the delay. So with all that being said, this is how the clean tone sounds. Okay, so we're gonna play that again and play around with some pedals. So first and foremost, we'll turn off the delay and reverb, because that's gonna make a very noticeable difference, and it sounds like this. So as I mentioned earlier, I thought that I had used the shimmer function, but it turns out I actually didn't. So I just turned it on a little bit there for you guys so you could hear it, but it kind of just adds this nice, well, shimmer to the end of your tones, kind of sticks out at the tail end of those notes. Sounds really cool. Just didn't quite work in context with my mix this time around. And then we're gonna play that one more time, and I'm gonna turn off the whammy pedal so you guys can hear how much of a difference that makes, adding in that high and low octave in there. So yeah, that pretty much covers it in terms of the clean tone. So I used a lot of effects on this tone because I wanted to showcase what this plugin does, but also because it honestly sounded really cool. I love how the chorus adds that slight, not quite phaser, but you know, gives it a little bit of wobble, makes it sound a little more unique. And then yeah, adding that reverb and delay sounds huge. This is also double tracked once again using the stereo function. And then of course, last but not least, adding those upper and lower octaves just really helped that part stand out in the mix. Okay, and then the very last tone we're gonna talk about is the ambient lead tone. So you can barely hear this, but it is over top of the intro and outro of the song. So this is when the guitar is just strumming a simple octave chord, and it sounds like this. So as you can see, I was once again using the highest gain amp, but I actually had it at a really low gain setting. This time around, I wasn't using the whammy pedal or the octave pedal. As for the second effects section, I was using the dirt pedal instead of the overdrive. So this basically gives it a more filtered sound, which again helps differentiate it from the rhythm tone, because I really wanted it to sit on top of the rhythm tone and not blend in too much. Also, it's a background layer, so the more you can make it sound like it's in the distance, the better. And then last but not least, this one is using the delay and reverb one more time. Pretty similar settings to the clean tone, except a little bit less reverb and a little bit more delay. So once again, we will play through that one more time and turn some of these pedals off and on so you can hear the difference. So we'll start off in this section with the filter dirt off and see how it sounds. So like I was saying, adding in that dirt pedal just really helped to bring it backwards, so I want it to be less prevalent in the mix. Now we're going to switch over to the amp section and try it out on a different amp setting and see how that sounds. Okay, so that pretty much covers all of the functions and features of this plugin. Of course, if you guys don't want to take my word for it and want to try it for yourself, there is a 14-day free trial over on Neural DSP's website. That's going to be linked in the pinned comment as well as in the description. So by all means, please go download this and try it out yourself to see if it matches your workflow and your needs. I personally really like this plugin as well as all of Neural DSP's other products. You guys have just seen them all over my channel. I use the Nameless Suite, the Pliny, the Kali all the time, especially, and also the Parallax for my bass tone basically always. They make great stuff. Again, go check out their website. It's going to be linked in the description and in the pinned comment. And that's pretty much going to do it for this video. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you are a Patreon member like these lovely people here, you can head on over to Patreon and get an audio download, guitar tabs, stems, or a shout out on the screen. So if any of that sounds interesting to you, go check that out. Again, go check the link in the description below and the pinned comment. Big thank you to Neural DSP for sponsoring this video. Thank you guys for watching. Look forward to reading your comments. Merry Christmas, and I'll see you next time.